Welcome to the Intentional Encourager podcast, where each episode brings you compelling conversations and stories designed to entertain, enlighten, and encourage. And now here's your host, Brian Sexton.
Hey everybody, Brian Sexton. I am intentionally encouraged when I see people doing business the right way. And for the last 15 years, Damon Burton and his team at SEO National have done just that. Now you might say, Brian, what can they do for me in my business? I'm going to tell you what they can do for you. They can help you understand search engine optimization. There are a lot of players out there in the marketplace, but you want a team of people that are going to be dedicated to working with you and helping you to understand search engine optimization and how you can show up higher on search engines so that you can bring more revenue into your business. Damon and his team are full of integrity, honesty, decency, and trust. And if that's important to you and that encourages you, I would encourage you to give them a call today at 855-736-6285 or go to SEOnational.com and get a free quote and tell them you heard about it on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Get ready for a dynamite conversation coming up right now on the Intentional Encourager podcast. And welcome into the Intentional Encourager podcast. I'm your host, Brian Sexton. Thank you for joining us again today. I have got a dynamic guest on. I've been looking forward to having this guy on for a good while. He's a podcast host, a mentor, a speaker, leadership and culture builder. He helps people change. He helps change people's lives. He talks about all things gratitude. I love that, man. You can find him on LinkedIn at Nick Dorsey, Dorsey. But you can find Nick right here, right now on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Nick Dorsey joins me. Nick, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Brian.
Nick, this is going to be a lot of fun. Let's start here. A lot of people in the last 2 years, and this is where the genesis of the Intentional Encourager podcast has come from. I had people that told me, they were like, man, you need a podcast, because I'd done a lot of radio in my life and things like that. Podcasting's a whole different beast. And a lot of people have jumped into the podcasting world in the last couple of years since the pandemic. What have you noticed as a longtime podcast host? Let's start here. What have you noticed in the last couple of years about people jumping into the space? And how has it changed maybe what you've seen, or maybe how it's changed for you in the last couple of years?
I think it's really cool people are jumping in, because then, they're putting their voice out there, and may not agree with it or anything, but guess what? Everybody, First Amendment rights, man. We're allowed to voice our opinions and everything. And I love the fact that people are getting more encouragement to get out and speak. I think a lot of people before this had issues, because LinkedIn, especially that, has changed so much. And that's where a lot of the podcastings come, because of all the lives that you can do on there. Because like my show is a live show. And I think it's really cool. A lot of people are reaching out of their comfort zone to be able to do it. Does it water it down a little bit? It depends on who you talk to. I don't think it does. I mean, you're going to find somebody you like, you're going to stick with it. You don't really go off to a whole bunch of different people. Most people don't listen to 10, 15, 20 podcasts. They listen to a handful that they really like, that really reaches to them, that gets them and goes out. So now I think there's so many out there that there is where people can actually find one that relates to them. Yeah. Because there was a time where, there were podcasts out there, but it was only, for me, I loved it. There are sports related ones, religious related ones, maybe some work related ones, but they really didn't jump into like leadership or gratitude or empathy or compassion. And I think now those are all out there. So, just an everyday person in their car now, if they're driving to work or work from home on their breaks, can just listen to their podcast, just sit right there next to the computer and do their work. So I think it's a good thing. I hope people are taking it that way, but I know a lot of people disagree with me, but hey, I don't care, because I'm not in it for ratings or anything. I'm in it for fun and just reaching out.
No, and I love that, man. You've got, and that's what, I'm glad you said that. And I got excited and jumped in there, because what you said is so powerful. I see a lot of podcasters that will post and they'll say, well, how do I find the analytics? I want to grow my audience. How do I do this? How do I up my presence and things like that? I think we become more analytics driven and looking at the numbers, and instead of going, okay, do I feel like I serve my audience? Am I having fun? Just those things that you talked about. Do I enjoy getting in front of a microphone every time I get a chance to get in front of a microphone. And those are things, Nick, you can't quantify.
Yep.
Those are things that yeah. Tell me, what do you see when you see those types? Because you and I run in a lot of the same circles. You see a lot of those same things too. Like, well, how do I up my listenership and things like that? When you see comments like that and posts like that, what kind of goes through your mind?
It's weird. I'll give you a quick little story. I had a guy reach out to me he's well known on LinkedIn for podcasts, and I won't say his name, but he was upset at me because he puts all this time and money into his production. He does all this stuff, and he goes, "You just go on live and you get all these likes and shares and comments and everything." And I'm like, because I'm just thinking because my personality's better. I mean, it was just, it was pretty simple, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I relate to more people because you're stuck in one field. I'm not stuck in one field. I've had Emmy award-winning actresses on. I've had TV personalities on. I've, had TED speakers on. We've talked about conspiracy theories. We've talked about religion. We've talked about a whole bunch of different things. I just don't base it off one thing. And I think that's where some people get stuck is they're worried about the analytics, but sometimes the field they're in, you're not going to get a high number of people because it just doesn't interest people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I try to get something that can interest multiple different genres, I guess you would say. Bring on multiple different personalities. If I was just straight into facilities, like that's what I do is construction. If I just straight went in that, my numbers wouldn't be where they are.
Yeah.
I don't care about my numbers, but I know what they are. But it's just like I get a little bit of stuff thrown my way. I get stuff and people mail me stuff and everything every once in a while. That's cool. I'm very grateful for it, but I'm not in this to make money at the moment. I'm not in this, to gain all that recognition and be a top 5% in the world, top 10% in the world. If it happens, it happens. And, then God's blessed me and I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
But when that time comes, then I'll deal with the analytic part and all that, because then it's making me money. But as long as I'm not making money, I'm just having fun, man. And that's what I try to tell people. Is this a business or fun? There's really no middle ground. Are you enjoying it? Or are you in it to make money and make a living? If you are, get on the analytics part, find your SEOs, find all those things. But if you're in it to have fun, who cares? The people will come. You will build your tribe. They'll always be there for you and they'll support you through it. And then more and more people will end up coming along because that's just what happens.
Well, here's the thing, too. There's a couple things that I want to unpack from what you said there. And I love what you said there. The first thing that I think people miss in that train of thought is when people are paying you and you're monetizing your podcast, to some degree, they control what you say and do. Because they're going, okay, well, you did this that resonated with me, and so I want to reach the audience, so I want you to keep doing this, right? Mm-hmm. I want you to keep doing it. And so I think that takes away, for me, Nick, I believe that takes away your creative freedom because, like you, I've had people of all different walks of life on this podcast. For me, it's about the story. If I connected with you on LinkedIn because something you said really inspired me and I began engaging in your posts. And I'm like, you need to, would you consider coming on this podcast? Because I like talking to other podcast hosts. I believe in the collaborative part of it. We can get something from each other. And I love what you said about, is it a business or is it fun? Because the same people, and you mentioned doing live stuff. I've done live radio for 20 years, filling in and things like that. There is an electricity of being live because at that point, man, it's all on you and people are watching. I think that's why performers get such a rush from performing in front of live crowds instead of being in the studio.
Yeah.
But there's also that thing of if you can't get in front of a microphone and you can't verbalize well and you can't project well and talk to your feelings and express what you're thinking, don't do it. Just don't do it, man. Good. Hey everybody, Brian Sexton. Prices are going up by the day. We've got to find ways to increase our household revenue. Now, a couple ways you could do that is, one, you could go and ask your boss for a raise. But if that doesn't work, I've got another way for you. It's my friend Joe Hart's program called Products for Profit. Joe's been a guest here on the Intentional Encourager podcast and told his story about how learning retail arbitrage changed his life, and he's been helping thousands of people change theirs. Now, retail arbitrage is simply this. It's taking a product and buying it and then reselling it online for a higher price, and you keep the profits. And guess what? Amazon and Walmart use third-party resellers every day to fulfill their customer orders. I want you to go to productsforprofit.com or productsforprofit.carrd.co. Get connected to Joe's team. Tell him you heard about it on the Intentional Encourager podcast and start making money today with Products for Profit. And now let's get back to more great conversation on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Go there for a minute. I know you got something to piggyback off that.
Well, I think for me, like the live thing is, it shows who the organic me is, if that makes sense. It shows who the real me is. I'll make mistakes. I swear on my podcast sometimes, because we just get so riled up. We're just like, and one thing, Brian, I will read somebody's profile before I go on with them, but I have no questions, nothing lined up. It's just I ask the same for a question in all of them, and then I just ad-lib everything from that point forward, because I don't want to dictate necessarily where the show's going, because I have the guest on for them, not for me. It's to promote them. So in their answers and what they say, I piggyback off that, because I'm trying to highlight them. I'm not highlighting me. People are turning in, they know who I am. Now it's like, who's Brian? Okay, let's figure out who this Brian guy is, and that's what I try to do with that stuff. So, I like the live stuff too, because then I can get the comments going in live and we can answer stuff live. I've done Q&A podcasts. I've done podcasts where we haven't answered anything because it was a pretty intense podcast. So, it's just like, we'll keep the trolls out. We'll keep this out for right now, but it's in the comments section. I don't delete them. I let them fly on the post, and, I don't know. Like you said, I just feel more energy when it's live. It's for some reason easier for me. I don't like doing the production side of it. So I'm going to be honest with you. It's easier just to hit live, go, then off, and just send it off to Anchor and let it go its places, and I'm done. And I get up and walk away. My podcast probably takes me 15 minutes to promote and distribute out afterwards, and I'm done with it, and I walk away because, like I said, I like it. I have fun, but I'm not going to dump the time or investment in it unless I'm getting something back on that end of it. Yeah. And right now it's working. It's working well. People like it. So I'm not going to change it up. Like you said, I don't want somebody dictating what I do. I built that brand for a reason. I'm not going to change that brand. If somebody wants to come and give me thousands and we want to talk about, maybe, but it's a big maybe.
Well, it's what's happened.
It's going to be my terms.
No, you're 100% right. And forgive me for jumping in there. It's the Joe Rogan effect. Joe Rogan, people have seen what Spotify did with Joe Rogan. And again, I'm not here to politicize anything like that, but they see, Spotify gave Joe Rogan $100 million for his podcast, and this guy's getting money for his podcast, and she's getting money for her podcast. And everybody is like, oh my gosh. And I hear ads for a certain hosting platform. They're like, oh, you could even get paid to do this. I'm like, do you know the remote? Do you know how small the percentage is in the podcasting world of people that are getting paid to podcast full time? It's tiny. It's tiny. And having worked around local media here in this area and seeing friends of mine that have toiled for years in live radio and knowing about what they make and things like that. And I'm like, but they work for a company. They're doing live shows every day with an audience, with a book, with all this other stuff, with a major media conglomerate behind them. And they're working their guts out for the same thing. Not everybody's making money. I love what you said, though, about the purpose, the intent of it. And here's what I thought about when you're talking about the live show. You ever go to a concert and you're watching somebody perform and all of a sudden they go, hey, you know what? And they turn around and maybe it's the performer, they turn around at the band and go, you know what we ought to do right now? Let's just play this song. And it's not on the set list. They had no intent, and you just see the band just like, all right, let's go. Let's just jam. And they play for the next 15 or 20 minutes, and it's just free, and it's flowing. And it's just like, let's just do this, or let's just do that. Mm-hmm. I get that vibe from you when you're talking about doing your live show. That's exactly what I thought. You're like, man, I'm feeling this right now, so let me just go here with it. Did you have to build to that kind of spontaneity, or did that always just kind of come naturally to you with your live shows?
It always came natural to me. I mean, I've always been a person who could speak in front of people, who could be in front of people, and it hasn't really bothered me. So, like I said, I can walk in a room and almost meet everyone and have conversations with everyone. It just happens. It's just my personality. Maybe it's my Italian side, talking a lot. So, no, it's been good, and I appreciate that. And it's a gift I've been given from God, and I really appreciate that, and I'm very grateful for it, because some people don't have it, and I do have a personality talk, like maybe like sit on the radio or in front of a camera and everything, maybe it's my voice, maybe it's, how I move, whatever it is, it's just there, and unfortunate, and people tell me I need to push forward online, and really go for it, but I just don't know. I don't want to lose fun of it. It's a lot of fun for me. I don't want to create it into a business where I'm not enjoying it anymore. That's the biggest thing. I got a good day job. I'm happy with it. We make good money. We have a fortunate life, so why ruin a lot of things at this moment? I'm just not ready for that.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, Nick. I've had those blowback moments in doing this podcast where I've had somebody on and they've shared something with me that's just kind of like, I can't believe that person trusted me enough to share that with me. Have you had some of those blowback moments in your show where you've just had that real raw type of situation where somebody just shared something with you and it just kind of blew you away? Take me through that moment on your show when you've had that happen.
Man, I had a lady on. Oh, God bless her. She was a social worker and really trying to promote social working and everything. And she got into it. She just started talking about how she was abused and beaten up by her husband, and her kid was abused. And I was like, and I didn't know what to say. I was stuck. I was like, whoa. And so we just kind of continued on, asked her how she got through these things and worked through it. And she did thank me because she blew up on a couple things, because she really got her name out there. She really worked her social worker. She's really working with abused, women, bad relationships and everything. But, before going into that, Brian, I had no clue her background, and I had no clue we'd talk about something like that. So that kind of caught me off guard. That was one of my biggest podcasts ever, number-wise. So it resonated a lot of people. I met a lot of people through that and connected them together, a lot of those people with the guests on the show. So that was really cool. I had another one. This one was a lot of fun, Ryan. I had a copywriter on. She has a lot of copywriting stuff, virtual VP for people and everything. And we started talking about conspiracy theories about aliens building the pyramids and all stuff. Oh, it was so off into the left field, man. But it was so funny. We had like almost 500 or 600 comments live during the show of people just chiming in with their ideas and thoughts. That made it a lot of fun, because at that point it was just a conversation with someone. There's nothing. It was so much fun, and people always ask me, "Are you going to bring conspiracy theory person back on?" I'm like, "What?" My friends, but
they want the conspiracy theorist, man.
It resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah. They want the conspiracy
I like
theories.
It, and I always tell everybody I'm in for a conspiracy theory. Doesn't mean I fall for it, but I'm in for a good one. And just hear people's thought processes and everything. And that's what it was okay. Let's think outside the box for a minute. We're so stuck in this world where we're right here all the time. Get out here and just think outside the box and have a little fun. And that's how I try to bridge my shows like that. Like I'm just gonna roll with it because I want people laughing. I want people to enjoy their 45 minutes to 60 minutes of watching my show. I don't want them to be bored. I don't want people to click off. I want that entertainment value going. If I can, and that's highlighting the guests and having a good time with them. And notice on my show, the shows that we laugh a lot and enjoy are the ones that just keep going and going, and the comments just keep flowing and everything. I don't know. It's just touching people in some way, and I'm just appreciative. I would appreciative I'm able to do that. If that makes sense.
Hey everybody, Brian Sexton. Dreams are powerful pieces of intentional encouragement. We all have them. If you're a business owner, you've probably always dreamed of taking your sales to levels you've never seen before. I've got a guy that can help you with that. His name is Brad Norwood. My good buddy Brad has been on the Intentional Encourager podcast as a guest before, and he is a dream specialist. His company, Dream It Pro, offers incentive packages to travel to places such as the Masters, Kentucky Derby, the Super Bowl, even exotic places that you've always wanted to take your team, but you just didn't know how to do it. Brad's your guy. And oh, by the way, Brad's a certified bucket list coach, so he can help your team members achieve their personal dreams as well. I want you to go to www.dreamitpro.com and find out more, or call him directly at 479-466-6907. And by the way, tell him you heard it on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Let's get back to more great conversation here on the Intentional Encourager podcast. No, that makes perfect sense. And Nick, the thing about it is I don't think people understand a lot of times too when they podcast is that what do you want that podcast to be? You were talking about hitting the button and letting it go and then just kind of doing your thing afterwards. And I'll share this with you, and you're the perfect person to kind of bounce this through as people listen to this. For me, I feel like every episode is an opportunity that, God forbid, if something happens to me tomorrow, I've got 260 plus episodes that my family can go back and watch. And I can be present with my family in a conversation I'm having with somebody else anytime that they want me there. And it'll live on long after I'm gone. Every conversation will live on. And even the person, I had a guy on my podcast that just passed away last week. He was 98 years old, oldest living at the time, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient from World War II. Even though he's gone, that conversation's going to live on. It will live on for as long as there are hosting platforms and things like that. That conversation's going to live on for a long time. When you think about the future of podcasting, and I want to talk about the future for just a couple minutes, tell me what you see. Do you see more live podcasts? Do you see more? What do you see in the future of podcasting?
I think it's going to be hard because of the fact a lot of people listen to podcasts on their commutes to work, on the trains, on the buses, and so many people are working from home now. I don't know if that's going to bring down the numbers or not, but then I can work from home sitting at this desk I am right now and, just be completely remote, and just have something on my phone and listen to it from over there. I'm the type of person I need to concentrate on what I'm working on, or else I'll get distracted because I'm like a squirrel. So when I listen to
Me
the
too,
podcast,
brother.
it's usually in my car and my drive and everything, So, and because the drives, my drive's not bad. There's hardly traffic, but it passes the time really quick, especially getting to a show like, So I hope that your podcast goes up because it's easy to learn things. You don't have to read a book on this. You can get some really good information from people. And I'm not saying don't read people, but
Yeah.
but it is getting watered down a little bit, and that's the hard thing, is finding the good one that really resonate to you, that you can really soak in that information to help you. So it's finding those people. It's going on, for me, LinkedIn's my big thing. Going on LinkedIn and seeing what my friends that I very value on LinkedIn are listening to and what's giving them value, and maybe that'll give me value back.
Yeah.
So I think they're always good. The value is always there. It's how you take it. And to be honest with you, I don't know much on the younger generation how they take it. Older generation, I know, like us and everything, like podcasts.
Yeah.
I really do believe that. I don't know how the younger generation takes it, to be honest with you, because I don't get a lot of them commenting on my post or anything. So I don't know if that's just a sign of your show sucks, or it's a sign of, hey, we just don't listen to podcasts. So I don't know where that's at, to be honest with you.
Well, here's the thing that I'll say too, is that it's funny because you're right. You want to know what people are listening to, but then again, I think it would surprise you what people are listening to. I know for me, if I would say, hey, what are you listening to? And 10 people would go, I'm listening to this or this. I would think to myself, man, I can't picture you listening to that type of podcast if I know them. But here's why, Nick, here's what I'll say too. As well as knowing what people listen to, the thing that I've told people, and I want to get your take on this as well too. I see a lot of people talking about equipment and hosting platforms and all the technical stuff. Like, what kind of mic should I buy? And I tell people, I'm like, look, doesn't matter what kind of mic you've got. If your voice isn't good, if you're not working on the things you need to be working on the diction of your voice, working on your energy in front of a guest, if you're not working on the other things that make something sound good, I don't care what kind of mic you got. I don't care what kind of technology, because I had to work through those technology things to kind of dial in what worked for me. Where do you see the biggest need for podcasters to work on their podcast? For you, is it voice? Is it content? Where's the biggest miss for a lot of podcasters in your mind?
Getting comfortable in front of the microphone or in front of the screen. I see so many people, they're so intense when they're on. They don't look comfortable. They don't look like they're enjoying what they're doing. And those are hard to watch. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I've had a guest on the show, and the guests go the same way. It was and I'm just like, oh my God, you're just killing this.
You feel like you got to lead him. You feel like you got to lead, like help me help you right now.
And I feel bad because he gave out a ton of good information. It's just, he is not a camera person. He is just not a person who can sit in front of the camera and be comfortable. Now, when I talk to him on the phone or any stuff, amazing conversations, night and day.
Yeah.
But there's some people they just look all just upset. They're talking like this and and I'm just like, man, if you don't want to be on, don't do it. It's just like, and that's the thing is especially coming out of the last 2 years, Brian, world's been hard. Mental health has been just off the charts. People are going nuts. People are going crazy. People have been stuck and not having that human interaction a lot. There's areas that haven't had a lot of that, and the last person, I think, somebody who is a little down or depressed wants to see somebody on a podcast who looks down and depressed. That doesn't do nothing. Yeah, I mean, you got to be up there with upbeat. You got to have some fun with it. It's just my personality. I mean, you mentioned Joe Rogan earlier. People can say what they want about him. He kind of sometimes, but when he gets going, and he gets into his conversation, and it's like he's into it. He's just not saying the words. And that's the thing, is it's like a voiceover actor. You need to learn how to talk to the microphone. You need to learn how to talk to the camera, because you need to learn how to talk to your audience. I learned once that the camera and the microphone's your audience. So you need to talk to them. You need to get into it. You see my hands move all the time in my podcast because that's how I talk. I get into it.
Well, that's why I jump in, Nick. That's why I jump in a lot of times, is because I feel like on my right shoulder, there's an invisible listener, and they're going, oh my gosh, they said something. Ask him that. Like it will trigger something. I'll feel it's weird. I almost kind of feel that little tap on my shoulder going, ask him this. And I'll jump in from time to time, and people say, well, why do you jump in so much? It's because I want to pull more conversation out of what you just said. And I feel like I would be doing my listeners a disservice if I didn't go a little deeper and dig a little bit more.
Yeah, I like it, man. And I try to do that too. And also you do it to try to veer a long answer like I probably just gave. But
hey, man, I'm the king of long-winded questions, so that was perfect, man.
But I just think a lot of people just need to practice being in front of the camera, being comfortable. That's the biggest thing. I mean, just if you're not comfortable with what you're doing, you're going to struggle, and that's with anything in life. Just having that comfort level, I believe. What do you think it is? Let me hear you. I'm going to interview you now, Brian. What do you think it is?
I think it's the fact that people want everything scripted. They want to know the answers to the test before the test is taken. Because I have a lot of people that'll say, well, send me a list of questions. You hit on a little while ago. I don't do that. And I think people want to be prepared. And Nick, here's the thing. If you're speaking from your heart and you're telling your story and you're speaking from experience, that's something that only you intimately know. You know it better than anybody else. So if you know it better than anybody else, you should be able to communicate it better than anybody else. So I think it's just being intimate with what you know and can express. And I think a lot of people have intimacy issues in that.
I don't want my show to sound like a bot either. I don't want
100%.
Here's the question. Blah, 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 blah. Here's the answer. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, it's just boring as hell. Sorry.
No, you're 100% right.
But some people like that, and good for them. That's awesome. It's just not a style I'm going to run down. I think in this world, sometimes too, of instant gratification, I think people just want off the wall answers because everybody wants to be an individual. It's like people are challenging the status quo. People are doing all this. So, so let somebody be real and just let them fly, and flow on the show. I think that's the best way, in my opinion, to go.
I've always said this. People want to be a part of conversations. They don't want to witness interrogations.
Agreed. I like that.
Yeah, and that's where we are. Nick, we're going to do a second part of this. So, folks, we got another part. I want to tell Nick's story in part 2 of this conversation. But, Nick, as we wrap this up, tell folks where they can find you, find your content, and how they can connect with you.
Only find me on LinkedIn, people. I got rid of everything else. So just come find me on LinkedIn, Nick Dorsey. Also, the All Things Gratitude podcast is my business page on LinkedIn. Just come there, connect with me, send me a DM. I mean, I have a lot of fun with it. We are in the middle of rebranding a little bit, so a lot of people don't know that. So we're going to have a little fun and change it up a little bit and make it even more fun. And so I can get in, I guess I would say, some bigger guests and some more popular guests that people would know. So we're working on that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But LinkedIn, man, LinkedIn. That's my place.
We're here for it.
I want to be.
And we're here for it, man. Nick Dorsey, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Intentional Courage Podcast.
Thanks, brother. See you soon.
My thanks as always to producer Bryce Sexton and technical advisor Matt Means. And of course, the ultimate thanks goes to the Lord Jesus Christ, who provides intentional encouragement every day through his word. If you're not subscribed to the Intentional Encourager podcast, hit the subscribe button wherever you get podcasts so you don't miss an exciting episode where you can get encouraged and stay encouraged. And remember, anyone, anywhere, at any time, any place can be an intentional encourager.